Are you getting bored of Dynasty Mode inside of EA College Football 26? Or maybe you're a newer player and don't fully understand the mode? Or you've been playing for a while and have just needed a refresher? Well, I am here to help. This is a one-stop workshop for everything Dynasty related here on EA College Football 26. I've done similar videos of this in the past, whether it was Dynasty Mode on EA College Football 25 or on other games such as Madden, NBA 2K, and most recently MLB The Show. So I would like to say I'm pretty qualified to go over a lot of the stuff here today, especially considering I've now had the game for a few weeks, and I feel pretty confident with everything that I am going to share. Whether this is your very first college football game or you're a seasoned veteran, I think this video is going to have something for everyone. So if you think today's video is going to help you out, make sure to leave a like. Make sure to subscribe if you're new for more EA College Football 26 content. All right, let's get started with some settings and sliders. Now, if you want more of a deeper breakdown, I have a full video where I go over the settings and sliders that I will be using inside of my series, and I'll leave a card at the top right of your screen if you're interested. I do think that settings and sliders are very important. Now, if you don't feel like changing all of these and want to keep them on the default, I'm sure you'll have fun. But this is my personal recommendation, and then the same applies in terms of XP sliders in Dynasty Mode. Let's take a look at the XP sliders that I'm using inside of my Virginia Tech Dynasty here on the channel. Keep in mind, I did a 10-year simulation just so I could have fictional rosters, so I could add custom-made players by my subscribers, which, side note, if you're interested in making a player, you should join the Discord. Link is in the description. But regardless, whether you start in 2025 like a normal person, or you simulate 10 years into the future like a sicko, such as myself, I think these XP sliders are pretty good. And again, in the settings and sliders video, I did a much more detailed breakdown where I talked about a lot of these specific numbers in depth, why certain positions are higher than others. Gameplay sliders as well. My gameplay sliders are far from complete, but this is where they are at. Currently, I play on All-American, 10-minute quarters, 20-second automatic play clock, whatever you call it. I know a lot of people prefer Heisman because a lot of people are better at the game than me. I will be the first to admit it. But I think the biggest piece of advice, not just in terms of gameplay, but in terms of like playing Dynasty overall, is to play the way you want to have fun. I don't know if I would say peer pressure is the right word, but I feel like there's a lot of outside noise that you have to play Dynasty Mode by picking a really bad team, playing on Heisman, and working up the grind. But if that's not your style, you shouldn't play like that. You should play to where it's enjoyable. If you like to go on freshman difficulty and win every game 100-0, if that's what's fun to you, then do that. I don't really understand that. I mean, I would have done that on the old Maddens when I was like 10. But if that's what's enjoyable for you, then that's what you should do. Let's talk about the process of going into Dynasty and getting started. So I do want to point out, for those of you who want a team builder or an online Dynasty that you can run with friends, which luckily is cross-platform this year, you will not choose the offline Dynasty. You're going to click the Start button right here, and then you are going to choose the Cloud Multi-User Dynasty. That way you can import Team Builder teams, or you can start an online Dynasty with your friends, and it has all of the other same settings and custom conferences and whatnot as the offline Dynasty does. Let's talk about setting up your settings and possibly custom conferences as well. I'll talk about some of the new conferences in real life for those of you who do want to make your dynasties more realistic and have the updated conferences. We'll start with settings, though. Many of these are the default settings that you will find in the main menus. Obviously, you can change them all, so don't feel pressured if you want to change the difficulty. And then custom conferences. In real life, there is going to be some movement going into the 2026 season next year. So for those of you who want to make the changes and want to be realistic, whether you do it right away in your dynasty or after the first offseason, these are the changes that you're going to have to make. So there's really only a couple conferences being affected this year now that the SEC and Big Ten are done, at least for now. I wouldn't be surprised to see the SEC make more additions. But for the Pac-12, you're going to add San Diego State, Boise State, Colorado State, Fresno State, and Utah State. All the states. Those 5 schools come from the Mountain West. Texas State, meanwhile, you're going to pick up from the Sun Belt. This is honestly a pretty fun collection of teams. I'm curious to see what this conference looks like in 2026 and beyond in real life. And then the Mountain West, losing a number of their top schools. They are poaching Northern Illinois from the MAC and then UTEP from Conference USA. There's probably going to be some other changes as well. I know Louisiana Tech has been rumored to possibly go to the Sun Belt, but I don't think that's officially been locked up or confirmed. I know Memphis was trying to get into the Big 12. They said no. North Carolina's digging around, trying to get to the SEC. I'm sure the other powers in the ACC like Clemson, Miami, and Florida State are probably all thinking the same thing. So if you want to get crazy like that, then go for it. But the changes I showed are all 100% confirmed in real life for 2026. So now you've got to pick your team. I already have 2 videos going over teams that you should pick for Dynasty Mode. So again, I'll leave cards to both of those on the top right corner of the screen. And a lot of people I know like to choose the worst teams in the game. Someone like Delaware, for example, which, if that's you, be my guest. I personally believe it's more fun to pick an average or below average power conference school, such as Virginia Tech, for example, and then last year's series with my beloved Kansas Jayhawks. I think it's a little bit more fun to pick a power conference school because I think recruiting is a lot harder. Generally, you're going to be competing with many of the top schools around the nation. In the Virginia Tech dynasty, for instance, I think we're going to be competing a lot with teams like Clemson, Miami, North Carolina, South Carolina, etc. Other teams in the SEC like Alabama and Georgia. So again, I really think it's a matter of personal preference. Do you prefer the slow grind with one of the worst teams in the country in a smaller conference? Or do you want to pick a team in a power conference where I think there's more action and I believe it's a little bit more interesting? You could also pick your favorite team as well, even if they're really good. If you just want to run up the score with your favorite team, the University of Alabama, again, be my guest. It's fun to play with your favorite team. I would very much enjoy using my Oregon Ducks in a Dynasty series. It's just that it wouldn't create good content because, well, Oregon's already one of the top programs in the nation. But you at home are probably not creating a Dynasty series for content or for a job like me. You're doing it for fun. So using the reigning national champion Ohio State Buckeyes, if that's what you want to do, want to create them into an actual dynasty, hence the game mode, then you can certainly do that. For today's video, we will pick the Buckeyes. I'll explain a little bit more why shortly. I mean, it doesn't really matter who we pick. We did use Michigan for one of the other experiment dynasty videos, so I guess I kind of owe my Ohio State people. From there, you can pick a head coach, offensive coordinator, or defensive coordinator. I think it's more fun to just be the head coach. You have control on both sides of the ball. But if you really want to challenge, you can be like the defensive coordinator of Missouri State or something. That's about as hard as it would get for a dynasty. If you pick the team's current coach, then you will have all of their levels, all of their upgrade points and whatnot. So that's probably easier. So if you're looking for an easier, more chillaxed road, then maybe pick a guy like Ryan Day. But if you're looking for the challenge, you can create your own coach, whether it's a motivator, a recruiter, or a tactician. Tacticians are going to help your players in terms of their overall ratings in-game. They're going to make them perform better. Recruiter, pretty standard. It'll help you with recruiting. And then motivator, it's going to help with certain abilities. It's going to help your players on your roster progress. I personally believe recruiter's the best choice. They did nerf it, though, from last year, which is good because last year I feel like it was way too easy. I still picked recruiter for the Virginia Tech dynasty, but again, personal preference. By all means, play around with motivator or tactician. But for the sake of being quick today, we will just use a Ryan Day instead because I don't feel like creating a coach. All right, let's get into the Dynasty mode now, and especially for the newer players, it might look a little overwhelming. You have a large roster of nearly 100 players. You have recruiting, custom schedules, top 25. It might look like a lot for more of a casual college football fan. So I think the number one thing in any franchise, but especially for college football, is to understand your roster at least to a surface level. You don't necessarily need to be an expert on all these guys' life stories, but understanding all the positions, understanding certain archetypes, understanding strengths and weaknesses, especially with college football, where a lot of these guys are more unknown nationally than, say, the NFL and in Madden, where most fans know a lot of the players on the roster, especially if you're using a small school, because I imagine most of us are not that familiar with the Delaware Blue Hens roster, maybe outside of a couple players. With Ohio State, it's a little bit different because at least certainly the top guys like Jeremiah Smith and Caleb Downs, I hear they're pretty good. I'm sure most fans know who they are. Let's talk about the new positions that were added to the game this year. Defensive ends and outside linebackers are no longer here. We have modernized positional terminology with edge rushers and then Mike, Sam, and Will linebackers. I think once Madden comes out, I might do a video where I do a deeper breakdown on these positions for the fans who may not understand them all that well. But to summarize in short, we'll start with edge rushers. These guys are your pass rushers, your defensive ends in a 4-3 scheme, your outside linebackers in a 3-4 scheme. For the most part, these guys should be able to rush the quarterback at a pretty high level. But they're versatile players. Some of these guys can defend the run. Some of these guys can cover a little bit as well. We'll look at Dylan Stewart, for example, who might be the best edge rusher in college football, the sophomore at South Carolina. High power moves, high finesse moves. He's more of a finesse rusher, given that his speed and acceleration ratings are really high. Strength is a little bit lower. Weight is a little bit lower. And he's not some elite run defender. So he's certainly better as a finesse guy. But regardless, he's a traditional edge rusher, and he's a pretty damn good one, being a 94 overall in just his second season. Let's talk about the linebackers now. They're no longer classified as outside linebackers and middle linebackers, but instead Sam, Mike, and Will, which this is how football coaches refer to the linebacker position, so I'm happy that it's been updated here in the game. I think the easiest way to remember it is the nicknames for these linebackers are strong side, weak side, and middle linebacker. And the best way to remember that is that strong side starts with an S. Sam starts with an S. Sam is usually your strong side. Mike is the middle linebacker. And then weak side linebacker, Will. They both start with W. Let's compare some skill sets. We'll start at Mike linebacker. Anthony Hill Jr. of Texas is the highest rated guy here. I feel like he shouldn't be a Mike linebacker, though. I feel like he should be one of the outside backers. Texas fans, correct me if I'm wrong, but he's not a traditional inside linebacker. He had 8 sacks last year. As an Oregon fan, I think Bryce Betcher makes a lot more sense because he is a traditional middle Mike linebacker, the green dot, the leader of the defense. The middle linebacker usually is not someone who's going to be used as, say, a pass rusher at all, but hopefully they can cover the field. You certainly want them to have good awareness, good play recognition, and ideally they can stop the run as well. So I think Betcher with Oregon is a very good example of what you look for at inside linebacker. Let's now go to the outside. Let's look at the Sam linebackers and then the Will linebackers. As I mentioned earlier, the best way to remember it, Sam, strong side, S. Will, weak side, W. The strong side is where more personnel on the offensive side of the ball is lined up. Generally, the Sam linebacker is going to be bigger than the Will because they can match up with the tight end in man coverage. They can block off at the tight end. They're usually better in run support and more regularly used as a hybrid edge rusher, but a guy who can do a little bit of everything. And then the Will linebacker is generally the smaller one. They're usually not lined up where the tight end or the extra personnel on the offensive side of the ball is. This is someone who you trust 5-10 yards down the field in coverage. Maybe you trust them enough in man coverage on a slot receiver if they're quick and shifty enough. These guys can still make plays in the backfield, especially looking at the Will linebackers in the game. Like, there are some good pass rushers here. You can use these guys as sort of a hybrid pass rusher. Centurion Perkins of Ole Miss, the true junior, he had 10 sacks last year at just 6'1", 210 pounds. That's not NFL edge rusher size, but he can get after the quarterback. Harold Perkins at LSU, kind of in the same boat. Another guy who's not big enough to be a traditional edge rusher, but is used a lot as someone who can go after the quarterback. So you can kind of fit players around based on your defensive play calls. If you want someone a little bit bigger as the Will linebacker, that's fine. I will say I think these terms are used more in a 4-3 defense. I would say with a 3-4, you have your nose tackle, your 2 defensive ends, your 2 edge rushers, and then your 2 middle linebackers. In a 4-3, you're going to see the terms Sam, Will, and Mike a little bit more. In your depth chart, there are some other positions here as well, including nose tackle. This is generally in a 3-4 scheme primarily. The nose tackle is the guy in the middle who probably isn't going to put up the big numbers, but is going to clog rushing lanes. Someone like Jordan Davis is an example. He doesn't put up a lot of sacks or a lot of tackles, but he's a guy you don't want to run through because he takes up space. Vita Vea is an example of one of the better nose tackles. And then your gadget player, I don't know why it's Jeremiah Smith for Ohio State, but your gadget player is someone who can line up at multiple different spots, inside receiver, outside receiver, in the backfield. Think Deebo Samuel in the NFL. Think Taysom Hill. Now, I will say, at least in the Virginia Tech dynasty, I haven't found a lot of good plays for the gadget guy to be used. And it seems like in Sim, the gadget guys aren't really used as gadget players, which is a little disappointing. So I'm hoping maybe there's better ways to do that. Let's talk about recruiting now, especially for the newer players. This is probably a little bit overwhelming. Now, everyone wants to come to Ohio State. There's a lot of green here. But if you're going to choose a lesser school, you're not going to see as much green. The number one key, especially if you're using a smaller school, is to look at the deal breakers and try to figure out which players you think will best fit with your program. I love how all these 5-stars want to come here. That's crazy. Unless you're picking Ohio State, Alabama, or Georgia, this is probably not going to be the case. But pay close attention to the deal breakers at the bottom right. Championship contenders, an A+ for Dwayne LaRue. That's great. But that means all of the big schools are going to go after him. Conference prestige for James Toviesi is an A+. Same deal. But if he's an A+ for the Big Ten, he'll be an A+ for the SEC as well, which means Alabama and Texas will go after him. Playing time, I think, is a little bit different, as you'll see with Rayshawn Acker. Now, since he's the 4th-ranked player in the country, he likes LSU, Oregon, Georgia, Notre Dame. It's not going to be that easy to get him. But with, like, 4 stars, you might see some smaller schools in the mix for a player whose number one deal breaker is playing time. In the Virginia Tech dynasty, I'm going after a 4-star receiver who wants to play. In the mix of his recruitment is Purdue and Ball State, and he's a top 150 player in the country. Let's go to the My School tab. This is where you can see all of your deal breaker grades. You can sort by position in terms of playing time, playing style. I wanted to find a lower tier school, or at least a group of 5 school who had some good grades. So I ended up landing on Boise State, who's probably the best group of 5 school in the game. Although you can move them to the Pac-12, so maybe they're a power conference school now. But like coach stability, for instance, is on the higher side. It's an A-. Stadium atmosphere is a B. That's pretty good. If you're going to be competing with the smaller schools, you can really take advantage of that. I think playing style, playing time, and proximity to home are probably the 3 biggest ones, especially proximity to home, because that deal breaker will not really change. So if you get a player with an A+ proximity to home grade, they're probably never going to transfer away from you. So that can be a real win, especially if your school is kind of in the middle of nowhere, like Boise, Idaho. There's not going to be that many schools that really fit the player. So someone like Martin Dallas, for instance, here, a 3-star, would be a really intriguing player. He wants to go to Ohio State, which for the smaller schools is not that ideal. But let's look at the other schools that he's interested in. Eastern Michigan, Toledo, Ohio, and Bowling Green. So let's say Ohio State does not offer him a scholarship right away. They probably wouldn't, because all these 4 and 5 stars want to come here. That opens the door for you as a MAC school to get a really good 3-star. And I would say the number one key in preseason recruiting, if you are a smaller school, is to fill your board with highly ranked 3 stars. You can go after a couple 4s and 5s if you're feeling ambitious, but if you're a 1-star Akron, you should not expect to land a 5-star in the first year. Go after the 3 stars, specifically the highly ranked ones, because a lot of these 3 stars do not get scholarships right away, even if they're interested in the big schools. Some of them will. This does not work for all of them. This is not a foolproof strategy, but a lot of these guys, you're not really going to have to compete for them, at least early in the year. So let's say I'm Bowling Green, and I really like Martin Dallas. I offer him a scholarship right away. This is a player who I really want. He can replace Harold Fannin. Not a lot of other schools generally go after the 3 stars in this game. So if you're able to lock him up by week 6, week 7, that's a big deal. Now, as the season goes along, those big schools will start to flock for the 3 stars. Look at Ohio State, for instance. A lot of 4s and a lot of 5s want to come here. But we're probably not going to land all of them. We're going to land a lot of them. But by the end of the year, we're going to need to fill our recruiting board. So that's where we would put on the 3 stars. In the Virginia Tech dynasty, most of the 3 stars I have on my board, as you can see, are not being pursued by other schools. Now, as the season goes along, that may change. So we may need to prioritize some of the 3 stars who we really like. Look at the national rankings for these guys, though. They are really high for the most part. But watch out for these big schools later in the year. Look at a guy like Clayton Peppers. Clemson at number 1. Alabama at number 6. Week 8, Week 9 might come around. He may be down to 5 schools, and I might be the only one with a scholarship. But all it would take is for Clemson to offer him one, send the house, get him on a visit. He might go there 2 weeks later. Recruiting changes fast in this game. If you guys want a full recruiting tutorial, I'd be happy to potentially do that. So let me know if that's something you think you'd be interested in down below in the comments. The last thing I'm going to show you guys how to do is to do the sim in the future to use the fake rosters like I did for Virginia Tech. You'll want to turn everything in settings on auto, and I would recommend turning coach firing off for all teams. That way, the teams across the country can have their same coaches. Look at the national championship screen, for instance, in my Virginia Tech save file 10 years into the future. All of the coaches stayed with their current teams except for Miami. Mario Cristobal's not there, but that's not because he left. That's just because he's not in the game. If you don't want to do the full 10-year simulation, 2030 is the first year where the rosters are fully fictional. 2029 is the last time you'll see the real prospects. The true freshmen at this year would be redshirt seniors in 2029, so they will have graduated. The only reason why I picked 2035 instead of 2030 is so the year could still end with the number 5. I figured it would look better for content to do 10 years into the future instead of 5. But since, again, you guys aren't doing this, or at least most of you are not doing it for content and you're not doing it for a job like me, then that probably doesn't really matter as much. I manually recruited for Virginia Tech in 2030 onwards, so you can keep recruiting on if you want to have an input for your roster. For Virginia Tech, I tried to balance the team to where they're not like really bad, but not really good either. Basically where Virginia Tech is currently in real life. So I hope all this made sense. I know it was a lot. If you have other questions, feel free to ask down below in the comments or join the Discord. The link is in the description. Make sure to leave a like, subscribe if you're new. Peace out.